for Smiles for Recovery is really two entire branches that have branches underneath those, right? So obviously it's providing free dental implants to those at recovery and in need, right? But the other thing is you're training young surgeons. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So because that's a big need for you guys. That's one of the big things, the biggest obstacles you guys are overcoming is the teaching these folks the model to be able to financially do what's required to help these people.
Yeah.
Right. On top of the skill set that's needed to do it as well.
And that's usually the problem, is the skill set.
Yeah.
Right. Every doctor, I don't know, many people don't know this, but if you graduate from dental school, any doctor can place an implant.
Okay.
Okay. They have to go to CE and other courses throughout their career to learn how to do new stuff and learn new procedures. So usually what they do is they go to endo. So they'll go to like an endo camp where they'll do endodontic procedures and learn how to get really good at that.
Okay.
Right. So they'll add endodontics into their practice. Yes, they'll do restoration, root to crown, but when they get into saving teeth and trying to grow their practice and make more money, they'll add different modalities to their business model. So then implants is usually last, because you need a CT, you need a CBCT, and that's really just a CT machine that goes around your head and shows 3D. Okay. So we teach them how to read those, right? Because there's a lot of dentists that want to get into implants, but wait 10 years until they, after they graduate to get into implants. And by that time, they've lost out. They missed a lot of time, right? So we're encouraging young dentists to come here and learn from Dr. Pryor and Dr. Jody Griffin, who we have connections to the AAID, and these doctors will volunteer their time. It's a 5-step process to become AAID, and every doctor wants AAID behind their name. Right. Because it shows the level of competence. It shows that they have the mustard to do what they need to do to get the patient what they need. And it doesn't matter the level of complexity. They're able to do it. So, and Dr. Pryor is not with AAID, but we're working on getting him credentialed, right? But these other doctors see what we're doing. These doctors that are way up here see what we're doing. They're like, we want to help. So that's what we need teachers, because I have, the problem's changed. Last year, I needed students.
Yeah.
This year, I need teachers because the students are here.
Yep.
I got 5 learning dentists every month in 2 cities that want to learn, but I don't have enough teachers.
So let's talk about what an average 30 days looks like for the Smiles for Recovery team. Okay. So obviously there's the patients you're treating in those 30 days. There's the doctors that you're training. I mean, you guys got a classroom set up and all. I want to give them like if we could simulate the tour you guys gave me. Yeah. On site at Doc's place with the classrooms and everything else. Walk me through, just walk through what 30 days in the life of the Smiles for Recovery team looks like.
Yeah. So when if you were just imagine to walk through the front door with me, you're going to see restorative on one side and then hygiene in the other, just like you do in every other, outfit. We take a walk. We're going to walk to the back of the building. That's where surgery happens. Okay. We have 4 operatories that we run surgery out of, and we have a full operating lab that runs as a business by itself. So we're able to do surgery and we're able to make the prosthetics all under one roof.
It's incredible.
It is. It's unbelievable. We have about $5 million worth of technology and all the machines that you need to make teeth. I love that.
That's my favorite.
It's nice. So if I were to plan a course in 30 days, it usually takes me about 60 days to plan an entire course. Okay. And I'm usually the one that's directing the symphony, right? So I figure out what doctors are coming to learn. And then I try to match them up with a teacher that best suits what they want to learn. Yeah. Right. We take a beginner, intermediate, and advanced type doctor. So then I have to find a patient to match up with that beginner or that intermediate or that advanced doctor. So there's a lot of interviewing involved. There's a lot of figuring out. There's, some doctors think that they're advanced when they're really a beginner.
Okay.
Okay. So they haven't done the training. And so what we found is that if we start them off with the basics of extraction, bone graft, suturing, we can figure out real quick the level of their competence.
Okay.
All right. So that's one of our first things that we do, is that we start them out as a beginner case, and because we want them to come back, right? So we'll give them little singles, little doubles, maybe a triple. And that's with bone grafting and sinus lifts and different things. But what you'll see is an effective team working together, trying to plan a weekend where we treat 10 patients, okay, 10 patients total. And each one of those patients fit into the bucket where the doctor is talent-wise, okay? So they're able to maybe have an easy case on the first day, and then they graduate slowly to a harder case by the end of Saturday. That's typically what it is. We have usually 4 or 5 assistants that are taking care of everything with me. That goes to records, CBCT, health histories. There's 9 links that I have to send to a patient. We have to collect all that data. It goes to doc. Doc approves it, and then we start the planning aspect with implants and where they need to go and what the patient needs. So we do a full workup. So that usually takes about 10 to 15 days just to get the right patient with the right doctor. Okay. When the doctor, comes in on the day of surgery, we have everything done for them. We have the case planned. We have the teaching doctor is going to be there. They're going to go over the case with them. They're going to answer any questions. We usually do about a 2-hour huddle from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the day of surgery on Fridays. And that is a place where everybody sees every case. The doctors know what they're getting into.
Who's all on that call?
So it's not a call. We're physically there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a team of people. I mean, you probably got 20 people in the room, in this conference room upstairs. And we're able to really break down all the complexities of this case.
Okay.
All right. I give them my mission statement. I give them, some rah, attaboy, thank you for being here. We need your hands.
Somebody's got to cheerlead, baby.
Right. And a lot of people think I'm a doctor, but I'm not. Right. I'm really helping facilitate everything. I'm teeing up the doctors to be successful when they come in. And my job really is to hold a door. I'm a door holder. Okay. But I do run everything back of the house, and the board expects me to be the face of this thing and to really drive it and to drive the awareness. That's why we're here today.
That's right.
To put on golf tournaments, to go and meet with politicians, to take the trips that are necessary, and to take care of a budget, and that's the hardest part. Yeah. Is that, right now, I don't think I've operated in a year and a half with over more than $10,000. So I've done a lot of work with not a lot of money.
That's right.
And a lot of times I have to ask for things for free, and that's really, again, that's my recovery. That was hard for me back in the day. Yeah. 5 years ago back in the day, right? Yeah. I'm still a baby in this thing, but it was hard for me to ask for help when I needed it. Yep. Right. So my job is to give them the best experience that I can. I do all the food ordering. I do all the planning. I do all the rides. Pretty much everything that's involved when it comes to the courses. We call them courses because the doctors really come in there to learn something, right? And we're just we're able to leverage that and work on these patients that need their help. Okay. So that's really the model. And we've been able to do that in Nashville, or in Lebanon, Tennessee, and Knoxville, and now in Lexington, Kentucky.
How many doctors are you guys currently working with right now, and what's the next milestone you got to hit?
Yeah, so right now, for this year, we'll have trained about 300 doctors.
What?
Yep, 300. I mean, think about it. You've got 3 different sites, 5 a month at each site. That's a lot of doctors. And there's some dates that have 7 to 10 learning doctors, and that's why I need more hands. Okay. I need more teachers. Okay. That are capable to be able to help. Right. And so that's hard because we're trusting people that we don't know. But what we've done is we've built partnerships with people that are connected. Like the president of the AAID loves Smiles for Recovery. And he's like, I want to help you. I've got access to 4,500 doctors. And so that's what we're doing, is we're building programs and processes where these doctors can really come in and make an impact and really help me and take the pressure off of me from, sweating every week, trying to find teaching doctors that are adequate, not overworking my current team.
That's kind of like, when you see the picture of all those people in the operating room on a Saturday afternoon when you post it, and it's like $2.3 million worth of smiles were done today. All right, so I want to kind of break that down a little bit, because let's think about all the aspects that add up to that 2.3 mil, right? So it's not only the people's time, it's the utilities on the lab or wherever it is that you're at to do all this stuff. Yeah. We mentioned all the people's time. What are my veneers made out of?
So yeah, those are zirconia veneers.
Yeah,
and
dude. That's cheap, right?
No,
That's just,
no.
You see what I'm saying?
Those pucks are, at cost. One puck is $5,000.
So that's kind of like what I'm saying is like it's not just the time that we got to cover. It's all the resources that right now people are donating their time and coming out of pocket.
Yeah.
This stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening right here, guys.
What you're talking about is really, we can't really put a quantitative number on it. And I can't fully say that it's $75,000 an arch, because it's probably more. And that's the aftercare, and that's the breakage.
And these cases are the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Right. So gosh, it's there, it's almost like, we had a small house fire, that burned one tree and like just a couple things in the flower bed versus the whole house being burnt down. You know what I'm saying? Like, so obviously two totally different cases, same problem, but two totally different cases.
Yeah. Yeah. So, typically the cases that we're doing, the dental industry has this model where they look at different types of cases. You have an FP3 versus an FP1.
Okay.
So an FP3 case is probably what you see on the internet.
Yeah.
All right. An FP3 case is they're going to mow all this bone down that are connected to these teeth. And they're just going to think aesthetically. They're not thinking functionality. They're just thinking, what does the person look like when I get done?
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to handicap this person for the rest of their life if something fails. Okay. Because there's no other option. Once you get rid of all that bone, you're done.
Yep.
Okay. Unless there's an effective procedure done. And unless there's a productive doctor that knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right. And the lab piece has to be there, because anybody can place implants. What we're teaching these doctors is the zero bone loss concept. And what that is like, if we take a tooth out, well, we're going to put an implant right back in that hole, and we're going to engage 3 walls of bone, and then we're going to pack bone. Okay. And our healing times are all different. Everybody's different. Right. And that's what I try to explain to every patient is, listen, I'm not a doctor, but I've seen this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You're not going to, respond to the outfit we give you, because we can't give you the same outfit he's got on.
That's right.
Right. So your bodies are different. Your chemistry is different. Your DNA is different.
Bone structure, bone density, everything. And teeth are bones.
Exactly. So we have to plan effectively. And that's where it goes back to the beginning. Like, we do an evaluation. Like, I spend 4 hours with a patient day one. I'm evaluating. Are they calm in that chair? Are they going to give my doctors, ultimately, are they going to give my doctors that are coming here to learn and teach a good experience?
Yep.
Can they sit still for that long? Sometimes 6 to 8 hours. And we usually have 4 to 5 sets of eyes on that patient the entire time. Can they follow directions?
Yeah.
So it's not only just planning for the doctor to come have a good experience. We're having to plan to have the right patient. Okay. Because not a lot of people can do this. It is not easy. And we've had some bad scenarios where patients have, flipped out.
Yeah.
Because trauma.
Yeah.
And the sweet spot for me is 3 to 5 years of sobriety.
And these people have gone through trauma, right? So I get it. It's literally PTSD.
It is. So those are the points we're trying to make here, is that mental health belongs in dentistry. Okay. 100%. It's not just aesthetic. It's functionality. It's health. It's A1C being lowered. It's so much deeper than what people really think, and what politicians I've heard say, oh, that's just the way they look.
Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe for more, and visit nickhyder.com.